Lakeisha Small of Texas, tell us your story.
Hi, David. My story began in July of 2020, right when the pandemic hit. I saw FFL on YouTube and I saw people that was in the company that looked like myself. So I was curious. I called the number that was listed and I got the ball rolling, got my license. They promised me, oh, you can make 3,000 to 4,000 a week. You could do this, you could do that, but you have to buy leads. So I started buying and I initially made money, but after about a month, I noticed the leads wasn't as good and I complained to them. I'm like, something is going on with these leads. I'm buying leads. I went in debt buying leads. I borrowed money buying leads, was doing everything that I was supposed to do, everything that I initially doing for and wasn't getting anywhere. And they kept telling me, oh, you need to buy more. I was actually told I was lazy. You're not working the system. You're looking for a shortcut. And I'm like, how could I go being successful to now can't close anything? After about 3 or 4 months of going back and forth, I decided to just stop. And I asked them to release me from my contract. That was a big headache because they said, well, why do you want to go somewhere else? You just need to work harder. And then gave me the runaround. And then finally told me that they couldn't release me, but I could wait 6 months. I didn't write bills for 6 months. They would just terminate me. It was just a headache. But in total, I spent about $3,000 on leads.
You say to me that you saw on YouTube that you saw people like yourself who seemed to be successful. What does that mean?
I first saw them, on Facebook. And then when I researched them on YouTube, I saw African-American women, African-American men, people in particular that told their testimonies of them being single moms, making good money. I'm a single mother myself. So I felt people that looked like me that was actually in the company, which made me feel like, okay, this is something legitimate and that they understood my culture and they understood what single mothers go through and they wanted to help single Black women. I watched tons of YouTube videos about FFL and their successful, so that's why I decided to join.
Lakeisha, when you first came into the system, you mentioned that you were initially successful. How many sales did you make during the 3 months that you worked at FFL?
I made a ton of sales. My first sale was I was in the home for an hour and a half, made almost $800. So I was successful with no experience initially. That August, September, I did really good.
When you say really good, how much sales was that, let's say during the entire 3 months that you worked for FFL?
The entire 3 months that I was there, I made about $10,000.
Of these sales, how many kept them the entire year?
Hardly any. After that 3 month, that initial 3 months, I made $10,000 in sales. I had $3,000 in chargebacks, which meant people terminated their policy within the first 9 months, and I had spent $3,000 on leads. If you think about it, that's $1,000 a month because I ended up with $3,000 total.
It's a little bit confusing because you do get a 9 months advance when you first start. So
Yes.
when people say they made $10,000 of sales, they're saying entire year. Then when they talk about the chargeback, they're based on a 9 months coming back.
Correct.
To make it more clear, what was your income for that entire year?
My income that short time I was there, my total income was $3,000.
That was taking into account the chargeback?
Yes, that was taking into account the chargeback and the lead. So I initially made $10,000, but when you calculate your chargeback and your lead, I only made $3,000, a little over $3,000.
And that was during a 3 months period?
Correct.
So you made $1,000 a month?
That's correct.
Which would put you below the federal poverty level.
Yes. And this is doing it full time. I had left my nursing job to do FFL full time. So imagine leaving a career where you're making good money to now making $1,000 a month. And at that time, you don't see it as $1,000 a month because you're studying getting that income coming in. 3 months later, when you look at your chargeback, when you calculate your lease, you realize, dang, I only made $1,000 a month. I'm borrowing money, promising friends, hey, if, because what was told to me, you buy your lease, you can flip your money 5-6 times. And initially I could, and then it just stopped. So I'm borrowing money and wasn't able to make a profit and ended up going into debt. I was told not to pay my car note. I was told, hey, don't worry about your mortgage. The money for your mortgage put into to lease and you could get your money back and then pay your mortgage. I was told all kind of crazy things. I was told when I complained about the lease that I wasn't strong enough and I needed to be mentally strong for this industry, and was given a book to read about mental strongness. Mental strongness was not my problem. The lease wasn't any good. And I knew that. I complained about it and was told, no, you're just not working hard.
Many agents have told me that the primary carrier of Family First Life is America.
Oh, yes. I sold a lot of Americo. And then Americo have products, and they'll say, focus on these two products. And then with Mutual of Omaha, focus on this product. So they would have each company, they would tell you which product to write for. So yes, Americo was the top carrier because Americo would pay in 2 days. The next day pay or 48 hours pay. So we all wrote lots and lots of business for Americo.
A gentleman that I spoke to on this YouTube channel, Andrew Holland, he physically told me his quote, "If I sell Americo, I know it will get placed." Did you see Andrew Holland's interview? He was the gentleman that, as the subject line was, "It's better to call the phone book than Family First Life leads."
Yeah, I did. I read that now. Yeah, I did see it. Yeah, because a lot of times I would call and it was like, I didn't request any information. Stop calling me. This is my first time calling you. No, this is the 9th time today somebody has called me. And I'm like, well, it wasn't me. I've only called once. But yeah, I was told to door knock when, well, I don't know what's going on with maybe you should just door knock. And as a woman, door knocking is kind of scary for me. For me, any female, I just think it's scary. And there are some people that do it and they're good. I was too afraid to go door knock.
Lakeisha, you mentioned to me previous to the call that your previous job was a professional woman as a nurse.
Yes, I'm a pediatric nurse.
That's a pretty weird situation, that going from a pediatric nurse helping people to door knock because people aren't picking up the phone.
Right. And here's the deal. I wanted a profession where I feel helpful and have unlimited income potential. And that's what I told FFL, and they ran with that knowledge.
The ad campaign on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram specifically mentions over and over that you're helping people.
Mm-hmm.
According to the Andrew Holland interview, where if you're leading with Americo, which is a good carrier, or I should say suitable carrier for people with Parkinson, DUI, or bankruptcy, for the 97% of the people that don't fall into that category, you're selling these people an overpriced policy, according to Michael Schlesser as well, who I interviewed.
Okay.
These are some of the easiest policies to replace, especially if these leads are being sold to 10, 20, or 30 other people that have the same exact information. It doesn't take a rocket scientist for that agent to come after you and say, hey, you're paying $100 a month for XYZ amount of coverage. You could pay amount of money and we could get you 40% more coverage.
Right. And FFL always told Americo was the cheaper of all of our carriers as far as for policy, that there was inexpensive, targeted particular products with Americo, and that they're the carriers that could get you paid the fastest. So you didn't research to see, a few times if they had health issues, I may check with another carrier or check with Move. But at that time, Americo was the least expensive. So I just went with them. If whatever they told me, I just took it as gold and I just ran with it. Very few times that I researched other carriers to find a cheaper rate.
Lakeisha, they told you it was the best deal, but as a new agent, trusted your mentorship.
Oh yeah.
Your upline.
Yes, you don't know what you don't know. So if your upline tells you to do this, I'm going to do it.
I have specifically been noticing on YouTube that Family First Life videos are targeting youngsters, people that are 8, 19, 20 years old. I suppose based on you and your life experience and my life experience, we know more as we get older than we are younger. We're likely to make mistakes when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Do you feel that there may be a connection between Family First Life targeting younger people?
My own team recruited a lot of young people. Some of them had experience, professional experience. Most of them didn't.
Videos that I've seen online are specifically people under 20.
We had a few that was under 20 as well, like right out of high school.
What I would like to do is to encourage fraudsters to be brought to justice. You may have seen the class action lawsuit against Families First Life that is specifically claiming lead fraud and release fraud. I have to say that's a drop in the bucket. The main negative consequence that you personally had from Family First Life was your time and effort, and I suppose the emotional damage going through this emotional roller coaster, leaving a decent career, believing with almost a certainty that you would succeed, when the chance of you succeeding, buying this replicated data and getting terrible mentorship of leading with all your clients with Americo, not knowing that it was a fairly overpriced policy, especially considering that this lead is being sold to dozens of other people. It's almost too easy to replace.
Right. I had no idea that it's easy to replace. Americo was always your first go-to unless they had health issues or had a criminal background. I always taught to go with Americo first. Always. You didn't even look nowhere else because they paid well, and prices from what they told us was cheaper than anyone else. So you didn't doubt that. You just wrote nothing but Americo.
You believed them during the first 1 or 2 months of the business until you knew what was going on.
Yes, I believe them. And I traveled all over Texas. Even though I live in Dallas, it was nothing for me to travel 2, 3, 4 hours away from my home, run appointments, 8 to 10 appointments a day, and then drive 3, 4 hours back home. I did that multiple times because that's what I was told, that if I wanted to be successful, to get out of my neighborhood and to go in poverty-stricken, lower-income community to sell life insurance, and that's what I did.
Lakeisha, I hate to come across as a professor, but the main benefit of life insurance is tax-deferred than tax-free income. Low-income people don't really care about tax. The traditional companies like New York Life, Mass Mutual, Northwest Mutual, their agents are trained specifically on a product called retirement planning, which takes advantage of the federal tax laws which benefit life insurance companies. It's not what you make, what you save. These type of products, whether it be a large whole life policy or a large index universal life policy, people put away between $4,000 and $5,000 on average. So the fact is that they're telling you to be targeting poor people is a little bit nuts.
Right. And they have specific classes for those higher end market. Basically get outside of my comfort zone, get outside of my neighborhood, be comfortable going into inner city areas, low income areas to sell life insurance because those communities didn't have life insurance, and to really educate people on the importance of life insurance and write policies. And that's what I did. And they didn't keep the policies, not even 9 months. They didn't keep them. And that, cost a charge back for me.
Lakeisha, let me tell you one of the benefits selling life insurance to low-income people. One of the benefits is low-income people are much more likely to fill out lead forms. They're much more likely to invite salespeople to their house. They're much more likely to initially buy the policy. The negative is 3 or 4 weeks later, they cancel policy.
Yeah, because
that's a slight negative.
Right. Because here's what I realized in this experience. Like I said before, you don't know what you don't know. That is an extra bill. Getting life insurance, we know everyone needs it. That's an extra bill. But when money get tight, times are hard, the first thing that's going to go is that life insurance policy, because that's the newest bill that may have entered into the budget, into an already stretched budget. So I had to learn that the hard way. FFL didn't teach me that. I learned that through my chargeback. I figured it out.
The saying that everyone needs life insurance is not true. People need to put the body in the ground when a person's 65 years old and completely destitute. The most likely thing I would do if I was 65 years old and broke and I had no money to put the body in the ground, I would walk up to the local funeral home and I would ask them, what should I do?
Right.
That should be the first thing you do in your training if you are specifically targeting low-income people for burial insurance.
And they taught completely against that, because what I was initially taught was you don't want them going to the funeral home buying a policy at the funeral home because they won't be able to leave their family anything. The funeral home, if it's a $10,000 life insurance policy, the funeral home is going to take $9,999 and leave the family with $1. So you don't want them to do that. You want them to buy life insurance so they can have a cheap funeral and the rest of the money can go to family. And that's what we were taught. That's what I was taught.
If a person completely broke at 65 years old, he's not really thinking about leaving $1 to someone else,
Right.
or $5 or $10,000.
And I've had many tell me that I'm just trying to, I'm living from month to month on my disability, so security. My kids are fine. My kids are doing better than me, so I don't want to leave them anything. I heard that several times.
The funeral home has a policy called pre-need burial, which is just tied to specific funeral home. And I suppose the number one training that one would do if they wanted to target that market is what the funeral.
I agree.
As I'm doing these interviews one after another, I realize that there is a claim against Family First Life for bad mentorship or mentorship fraud. I've seen the YouTube videos where Sean Mikey of Family First Life claiming over and over and over, we will train you to succeed. What got me into this situation is I was on LinkedIn and Facebook. I saw hundreds of profiles stating that we will teach you how to make $250,000 a year. The average income on Indeed.com is $111,000, which you and I know is fraud.
My team trained me initially on final expense. So you write, I think they told me to write like 2 or 3 months final expense. Then I'll be trained on mortgage protection. Then I'll be trained on annuities and IULs. So that first 2-3 months, that's all I did was final expense. And that's where the majority of my sales came in. So once my final expense leads were not paying me anymore, I couldn't even make an appointment. It was horrible. They said, well, let's train on mortgage protection. And I was like, okay, I'm always up for training. My training was watching a 30-minute YouTube video and filling out the paperwork. They had a sheet that you filled out, and that was it. And I was told, watch this video, follow his step, call me if you need any help. And it was like, if you could do final expense, you could do mortgage protection. And all I got was a 30-minute video. And then I remember being so nervous going to my first mortgage protection appointment, listening to the video in the car and trying to remember the steps that was given in the YouTube video on mortgage protection, but I was never formally trained on mortgage protection at all.
I understand why they bring new agents in at final expense. I have to say, hey, that's the easiest way to grab lead money from you.
Right.
These are the people who fill out lead forms. They may buy. By the time the client cancels, you've already invested more and more money in lead. Mortgage protection is another story. Mortgage protection is legitimate. Mom, dad, kid, they bought a house. These people have a legitimate lead for life insurance. The problem you're going to run into is for a 35-year-old male non-smoker, say $500,000 of life insurance. I believe the premium was $5 a month for the best deal. That's not enough money to buy a lead, visit a person.
Right.
If you are getting the deal, the positive of mortgage protection or selling life insurance to these new homeowners is you could go back to these people a year later, say to them, it's not what you make, what save. At that point, you could sell them a legitimate life insurance policy based on retirement planning, and that's where insurance traditionally make a living. Those type of sales are traditionally made based on relationship and or that initial term life to a new mortgage holder.
Correct.
There is a list that comes out at the county courthouse every Thursday where you could purchase a list. It's also listed on the naip.org/lead-services page if that's something you're interested in.
Okay.
Virtually every lead company in America has that list. Every list company has it, and the county courthouse has it.
Okay.
I'm assuming that Family First Life did not tell you that information was at the county.
This is my first time hearing that. I had no idea. And then I bought final leads. I bought 100 mortgage protection leads, was unable to book any of them. Found out that their mortgage, they had closed on their home 2, 3, 4 years prior. I thought that I was buying a new lead. When I started calling them, found out that they had their home 2, 3, 4 years and it was no longer.
That is lead fraud. What I'm trying to encourage people to do is to stand up for their right. You
Right.
did mention to me, Lakeisha, that you recruited people and your downline agents were stolen from you. Is that correct?
Once I decided that I didn't want to be with the company anymore and went round and around trying to get released and got the runaround from being released, my downline was then told not to talk to me, and we were talking beforehand. They stopped talking to me, wouldn't return any of my phone calls. They were still selling, but I didn't make a dime. Then one of them told me, hey, we were told to no longer talk to you. You're not associated with the company. We're no longer longer talking to you. And then when
I
I went to look up their information, they were no longer under me. They was under my upline.
Lakeisha, I got a phone call from a gentleman in California who something similar to happened. Instead of happening to one agent, he was collecting between $10,000 and $15,000 from override commission. He complained about a racially insensitive video that was on FFL's platform. At that point, Family First Life retaliated, grabbed his agents. That person contact as we speak
Wow.
with the Attorney General of California and a bunch of other state agencies, which are excited about his case. This person is in contact with me. He says the paper filed in the next couple of weeks. This person has been in contact with Mr. Makaika from Dallas area, Texas, whose video is on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Where the title is F Family First Life Stole My 48 Agents.
48. Wow.
The gentleman from California has been in contact with Mr. Makaika to encourage him to go through the same process that he is going through. And I was SS text message a law in California which is designed to protect independent contractors where there is criminal penalties, time in jail. You cannot hire someone with promises, have that person work, steal their money. It's the equivalent of stealing someone's wages.
Right.
If you worked in a 7-Eleven and the boss decided we don't feel like paying Lakeisha because she's not in our business anymore, so we don't want to pay her last week's pay, that's time in jail.
Wow. That's good to know.
I am not sure what the laws are in the state of Texas, but if they're similar to what they are in the state of California, the people that did this to you should be looking at jail time.
I can't imagine having 48 of my agents stolen. It was only 2, but 48, I mean, two is just as bad as 48. But wow, I had no idea. This is news to me.
Mr. Makaika, who was born in Cameroon, an African immigrant, he is in the Dallas area. I suppose since he had his business stolen from him, he has a lot of free time. So you're more than welcome to give a call to Mr. Makaika, invite him to a Starbucks.
I will reach out to him.
And I have a feeling since Mr. Makaika is from a different country, his English language skills are less than yours.
Right.
He was instructed by the gentleman from California exactly what to do, but it's another story if he'll actually implement. So he could definitely use some hand-holding to contact those 4 state agencies that the gentleman from California recommended that he do. Go to the local courthouse or get a lawyer and file something.
Okay.
And be made whole.
I absolutely agree.
I am trying to encourage people to go to the proper authorities, go to the courthouse, and have this system of new insurance agents being systemically robbed of their time and money.
Right, and I agree. I believe everyone should file a lawsuit because it's just not fair to be targeted because you're a single mother or targeted because you're a minority and invest your time and money into a bogus system. They need to be brought to justice.